Welcome, friends, to another edition of More Bad News, brought to you, as always, by Camel Cigarettes. Take the Camels Challenge, smoke Camels for 30 days, and see for yourself what a difference Camels can make in your life. Well, my friends, it's been another week of very bad news that doesn't exactly work because it's a bi-monthly show now, but it was another week of very bad news. First off, I wanted to say that I apologize for the inconvenience and I appreciate your patience. For me, the break has been wonderful. If you thought I would take the time out to develop a more interesting format and more insightful performance or something like that, I should explain that I hardly gave it a thought. Here I am, really with nothing. Started off Sunday morning with absolutely nothing. That's it. So I got nothing to say for myself. I have a pile of unread magazines, so there's no news from the world of science or the New Yorker or the Economist. I simply jumped down a rabbit hole. I start every morning studying the Talmud, and I'm currently working my way through the tractate Sanhedrin, which deals with the court system and the structure of government and law according to Torah principles. In the past few days, the rabbis raised the issue of a case of bestiality. The Talmud gives a specific case of a man who admits to having sex with an ox and claims that it was consensual. The ox didn't rape him. We can't accept his testimony regarding his intent, for that would make him into a rasha, an evil person. But we can accept his testimony regarding the ox. In Jewish law, one cannot be convicted based on confession alone. If a person confesses to a capital offense, the rabbis assume he might want to commit suicide. But in any event, you need two witnesses to the crime. We don't convict on confession. In this case, if there is a second witness against the ox, the case can proceed before a court of 23 judges. Both the man and the ox are tried separately, and they are punished differently. If the ox is convicted, it will be sentenced to death by skila, which is the most severe of the four forms of death penalty in Talmudic law. They are stoning, hot lead down the throat, beheading, and strangulation, which is considered the least severe of the four. I don't really understand these rankings. For my money, throwing me off the roof or beheading me sounds like the best bet. Stoning, in this case, means that the animal or the person is tossed off a platform or a cliff, and then a large stone is thrown on top of them to ensure death. The locals can pelt the animal with small stones, but that's not going to kill an ox. The man, if convicted of having sex with the ox, is condemned to chinik, strangulation, which is, I believe, the most mild of the forms of the death penalty. Why strangulation is somehow better than stoning is beyond my pay scale, but I'm only reporting what I read. Anyway, the rabbis make it clear that it makes no difference if the man penetrated the ox or the ox penetrated the man. Which brings me to this incredible volume, show right here, part of my library, the New Views on Pornography, Sexuality, Politics, and the Law, published in 2015 by the very reputable Prager Academic Publishers for ABC Clio, which is an absolutely fabulous academic resource. The article related to the Talmud is entitled When Species Meet, M-E-A-T, Confronting Bestiality in Pornography by Margaret Grebowitz. To do the research, she had to block the download of the images and had to rely solely on the participants' descriptions and the comments. But she was reporting on real people having real sex with real animals and sharing their photos with other enthusiasts. Even for a scientific study, this is against the law. You cannot download the pics, which means that the phenomenon cannot be rigorously studied, but they were able to get around it a bit. The same was true when the government banned LSD. It stopped all scientific research. There are some things that we don't want anyone thinking about. And this brings me to the precarious moment where the AI system can get confused and shut me down. If that happens, I wouldn't have any recourse and I would disappear. The fact is, my friends, that there is no way for me to know when I shall once again offend the infamous community standards of the algorithm. There is no appeal, and we never said that the universe was just. So this may be my last show. In fact, every show might be my last show. So enjoy them while they last. What we have been saying is that we live in a very unpredictable times, and I could well cease to exist either online or completely. I've made all the arrangements that I can. I recently purchased my gravesite, a really lovely little spot in the Jewish cemetery in Grand Rapids. If you come by, leave a pebble on my stone. I understand that the dead really enjoy that sort of thing. You know, it's nice to be remembered. So first off, I think I should wish everyone a new year 2025. It is indisputably a new year. Whether it's good or not, it's an open question. I personally celebrated the 8th day of Hanukkah and Rosh Chodesh, Tevis, on that day. Karen and I were married in Tevis in 5768, some 16 years ago. We first met online in 1998, so our relationship is going on 27 years. I've been married 3 times in my life. I married Helen in 1968. That marriage lasted a little over a decade. A year or two later, I met Jennifer, and that relationship lasted for about over 25 years. In each case, I fell in love instantly, and that is the way I've lived my life, fairly passionately. I spent my career focused on genocide. Is it any wonder that my first wife was the child of Holocaust survivors? But all of my deepest relationships have been with people who survived childhood near-death trauma. If death was not something that you had to confront as a child, I really couldn't connect with you. It's not just the AI bot that imposes censorship. I've got family and friends who listen to the show, and so I shy away from talking about my sexual history. But I think that I can say that I have been passionate all my life. My first love was the Talmud, and since retiring, I've returned to it. Uh, you know that love, that kind of love that just stays the same. You're separated by time and distance, and yet when you get together again, it's as if nothing had changed. You just pick up where you left off. It was that way with Hannah Arendt, with her mentor, Martin Heidegger. She had been his lover as a graduate student, and when after the war his reputation had been tainted by his undying devotion to Adolf Hitler and his vile behavior towards Jewish colleagues, including his mentor, the Jewish phenomenologist Edmund Husserl, Hannah Arendt came to his rescue, organizing a meeting in New York in the midst of the controversy and introducing him by recalling those days in Freiburg where he reigned as the secret king of philosophy. You can see why I get into trouble. I've been warned. If I offend again, it will be the end of the show. So I'm apologizing in advance for my demise. As I said, I would appreciate a pebble. But enough of depressing topics. It's a new year after all. So let's look forward. Is it possible to imagine what the next 5 years will be like? Imagine the world in 2030, if you can. I don't want to see any details, but the general outline is pretty clear. Over the next 5 years, we will see massive climate catastrophes that kill tens of millions, perhaps hundreds of millions of people. Right now, the UN estimates that there are 36 million children under the age of 5 who are acutely malnourished. Is it possible to look beyond them to the horizon? How many more starving toddlers will there be in 2030? The suicide and murder rates will continue to rise. Despair will settle in for many. And for the majority, it will be mass delusional thinking. It will be a great time to buy $600 million yachts. Wealth will continue to concentrate, and life will become increasingly difficult for all of us. We will all begin to look like a dog just died. I'm among a new breed of pessimists, people who realize that all is lost and yet have not surrendered to despair. The opposite, in fact. In many ways, this is a golden age for people like me. I have access to a world of information. There's new discoveries being made all the time by JWST and discoveries of how the universe is structured. Books are incredibly cheap, and I've amassed a library that will sustain me long after the internet is gone. I used to walk into class with a parchment scroll and a USB stick, memory stick. I held up the scroll and I explained that this was found in a cave in a clay vase after 2,000 years. And you could take it out, unroll it, you could still read it, but what's more, it was still worth reading. The memory stick, on the other hand, would be completely useless. You wouldn't be able to retrieve any information from it. There was always pushback from my tech students who would say, oh no, everything will be fine. In 2,000 years, it'll all be safe and sound, every dot and diddle of your computer materials. From my perspective, uh, that is already uh, delusional thinking. I went to my healthcare provider recently. I was wearing an N95 mask. The nurse and the doctor don't mask. Why should they? They've all been vaccinated. After all, and vaccination is not illegal yet. Um, I, I did come across a headline that said that 6 states were introducing anti-vax laws, and there were a bunch of anti-vax laws already. If the anti-vaccine people believe that vaccines are dangerous to you, you shouldn't get vaccines. My brother told me, don't get any more vaccines. You don't want to get vaccines. It's bad for you. So I wouldn't be surprised if over the next few years we see vaccines become, we don't want to vaccinate our children. That's the point. We don't want to vaccinate. Anyway, the nurse walks in and she wants to take my temperature orally with this little thing, you stick it in. And I didn't argue. I took it. I stuck it under my mask. But it seemed to me that if a patient is wearing a mask, the provider ought to mask up. I mean, this woman comes in. I'm 77 years old. If I get COVID, it could kill me. She could be a vector of disease. She would not know it. So how does she justify walking up to me unmasked and asking me to open my mouth? And the next 5 years will take us further down the delusional road of self-destruction. That is why we chose a convicted sex offender, lifelong con artist, mob boss who aspires to be just like Kim Jong-un and who is spiraling into dementia to lead us. One half the nation saw him drooling, and the other half saw a Messiah, the man who will lead us to greatness once more. Drill, baby, drill. Round up all those rapist illegals. Is there any way to imagine the horrors we face? I don't really think so. But I think we still have another 2 weeks left. And if that is true, and the algorithm doesn't get me, I'll be back on the 19th of Tebet in the year 5785 for one last show. God willing. Maybe it'll go on longer than that, but let's take it one show at a time. See you next week. See you in 2 weeks. Be well, stay safe, and live passionately.